In a land of sunshine where the palm trees sway, there's a special show to brighten up your day. From rockin' festivals to Broadway dreams, tune in with Bonnie G. It's a desert scene. The desert scene with Bonnie G. Meet the stars and feel the beat. From the Coachella Valley is the place to be for all the culture, fun, and harmony. The desert scene, yeah, with Bonnie G.
Mutual Broadcasting welcomes you to the Desert Scene, featuring conversations with the people who make culture, art, and entertainment happen in the Coachella Valley. From local theater to live music, art exhibits to cinema and beyond. The Desert Scene is presented by El Portal Mexican Restaurant in Cathedral City. Now, here is your host, Bonnie G.
And welcome to the Desert Scene. Happy to have you here, and very happy to welcome my buddy Jerome Elliott Moskowitz, who's been on. He's a veteran Desert Scene guest. He is the artistic director at Desert Ensemble Theater Company, and they've got their opening show is Loot, November 15th. Hey, Jerome, how are you?
Hi, Bonnie. I'm great. How are you?
Good. So tell us. This sounds like a really interesting show. Tell us about it.
Loot is part of our season of icons. These are iconic plays from the past half century or so that we think kind of set the pace for today's innovative playwrights because, as you know, we're known for presenting new and interesting plays. Mm-hmm. So these are plays we might have produced had we been around back then. This came about in the mid-'60s. Joe Orton was the bad boy of British theater. You know, he was an openly queer playwright who challenged conventional morals and conventional theater standards. This is a really dark, brilliant comedy. It's a farce. It satirizes organized religion or attitudes towards death, the integrity of the police force. Basically, the plot, two young mates, as they're called in England, Hal and Dennis, have robbed a bank and hidden the money in a funeral parlor, which is right next door to the bank. And that money eventually ends up, and this is all in scene one, I'm not giving away anything. That money ends up in the coffin of Hal's recently deceased mother in order to hide it from the police. And it involves a nurse of the recently deceased Mrs. McLeavy, who may or may not be a serial killer looking for her seventh or eighth husband in the Widower, and a corrupt police officer, and a lot of just crazy shenanigans including hiding a corpse, taking it out of the coffin and hiding it in a cupboard. And that all really happens so early in the play that I'm not giving anything away. It just takes off from there, and it's fantastically and morbidly funny.
Okay, tell us about the cast and the director.
Michael Pecos is directing this. For your listeners, probably know Michael is a very well-known local actor, and he's also a wonderful director. He directed for us a couple of seasons ago, and we're happy to have him back. As Hal and Dennis, we have Alex Price and Jason Rial, who are right now in a very well-received production at the Bent, and they're two young actors in the Coachella Valley who really started getting a higher profile the last couple of years, and people will be very, very happy to see them together again on stage. We've got Charles Harvey, a wonderful character actor from the High Desert, playing the police inspector. Shel Safir, who has done a lot of work out at Desert Theater Works in Indio as the dad and the grieving widower, and Tessa Gregory Walker as Nurse Faye, who probably doesn't have a moral fiber in her being.
And also Larry Martin?
Larry Martin is cast in I'm just going to say he's cast in a surprise role and leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So tell us, when you sit down as the artistic director of a theater, and you've been doing this for a while, when you sit down to plan your season, do you always like to have sort of a theme that ties the productions together?
Not necessarily at first, as I'm reading through scripts, something sometimes dawns on me. For example, a couple of seasons ago, we did a season called West Coast Originals, which were all new plays by West Coast playwrights, and that was very successful. Last year, we did a mix of some plays that had been done in New York that were quite edgy, and then we did 2 new scripts as well. This year, I really wanted to investigate what it would be like for our company to do lesser seen works that were very, very consequential in theater history, but may not be known to the general public because they haven't been seen in such a long time, and they certainly haven't been seen here in the Coachella Valley.
Mm-hmm. Now, this one, Lute, so because it's sort of based in England, are there accents? Is this being done with English accents?
It is being done with English accents, and we have an edge here because Tessa Gregory Walker, who plays Faye, is in fact from England.
Fabulous.
And she is working with each actor to, some of these characters may not come from the same part of England. We discussed that when we did the table read for the first time with the actors. I think the police inspector may have moved over from Ireland. Hal and Dennis were raised in the same working class neighborhood in London, so they might veer a little more towards a little Cockney flavor. And then Nurse Day has worked all over the place. She might sound a little more refined than everyone else.
Right. Right. So let's talk just a little bit about, for people who don't know, Desert Ensemble Theater Company. One of the things that you guys really focus on also is internships for high school students, on the job experience of working in professional productions. And since 2012, this is pretty amazing. Since 2012, you've awarded almost $33,000 in scholarship to graduating interns. So talk a little bit about that program.
That program, it makes me so proud, not only proud of the theater company, but proud of the students who participate in it. We work with local high schools. We've worked with Palm Springs High School, Cathedral City High School, Rancho Mirage High School to identify students who have an interest in theater or may not necessarily have an interest in a career in theater, but have an interest in other careers where working in theater might be beneficial to them, like television or public relations. And they come and they intern with us in technical roles. They work on every production, mentored by our professional stage manager, by our set designer, by our lighting designer. And over the course of 1 or 2 seasons, they start to develop accountability. They learn new skills that could be useful for them in their future careers. They learn about punctuality and scheduling. And last year, we had a student for the first time, assistant direct, and she assistant directed 2 productions. She's now a student at College of the Desert. Our resident stage manager, Sierra Barrick, is a graduate of our internship program and has been working with us professionally now. This is her 5th season that she's been working as our resident stage manager.
That's fabulous.
And others in our program have gone on. Nick Wass, who has his own theatrical projection company, and he travels around the United States doing projections for all sorts of different local theater companies. And we're happy to work with him occasionally when we have a show that involves projections. Yeah,
that's fabulous. All right, we're going to take a real quick break here on the Desert Scene, talking to Jerome Elliott Moskowitz about the DETC's opening show, Lute, and we'll be right back.
Craving a delicious meal that won't break the bank? Look no further than El Portal Mexican Restaurant in Cathedral City. At El Portal, we pride ourselves on offering family-friendly dining with affordable prices on our authentic Mexican cuisine. Owner Victor Lupercio and his dedicated staff make you feel like part of the family. Whether you choose to dine in, take out, or opt for delivery, you can always count on fresh, mouth-watering dishes that will transport you to the heart of Mexico. Enjoy discounts throughout the week and explore one of the Valley's best selections of tequila to complement your meal. Join us for live entertainment on Friday evenings and consider El Portal for your next special occasion with our catering services. Visit eatatelportal.com for more details and discover why El Portal Mexican Restaurant has become a culinary gem in the desert. El Portal, located 1 block south of Ramon on De Palm and Via Olivera.
And we're back with Jerome Elliott Moskowitz. So talk a little bit about, for people who don't know, and if you haven't seen some productions at DETC, you really got to check them out. They do fabulous work. And you are now performing, your productions are put on at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. I know there have been some talk about some changes in the works to the facility and that kind of thing. What's happening with any of that? Are we going to see anything different this season?
Well, we've personally been putting a lot of capital into Theater 3, which is the small 130-seat theater.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 theaters in there, and we're in one of the smaller ones that 5 years ago was converted to a live theater space from a movie theater space by Coyote Stageworks, which was Chuck Yates' company. And Coyote did not come back after the pandemic, and we moved into that space. We've improved the sound. We've put in some boom mics on the stage. We've improved the lighting capacity greatly. And the Cultural Center itself is in the middle of a huge capital campaign trying to raise money to improve the entire facility.
Right.
And that would include upgrading the dressing room areas, not only behind Theater 3 where we are, but behind the large Theater 1, which seats 500 people. Right now, backstage, there are no restrooms. So when they bring a big name, say, into Theater 1 for their Broadway cabaret series, they have to rent an RV for the dressing room.
Yeah.
And we have a small dressing room in Theater 3, but again, there's no restroom facilities. So that makes things a little awkward because we have to escort actors out of sight of the audience around the building before the play. So these are improvements that the Cultural Center hopes to make over the next few years. But meanwhile, it's a great place to see live, intimate theater. We share the space with The Bent, another theater company, an LGBTQ-oriented theater company, and we're just really happy to be in there.
Yeah. What kind of feedback? I know you often, because DETC has been around for a while, and you have regulars that come, regular audience members. What kind of feedback do you get in general? Do you get much, depending on the production, about what they like, what they don't like, what the kind of thing they'd like to see in the future?
Yes, we do. I mean, we make it a point to talk to our audiences. One of us, either Sean Abramowitz, our executive director, or I, are in the lobby to talk to people. The people are very vocal. Most of the time they say this is something very unusual that we don't get a chance to see around here. Please do more of the same. They feel like they're seeing something that they might see off Broadway or in a warehouse in Chicago, that kind of mood. They also sometimes want us to do something like a musical, perhaps. We've been asked a lot why we don't do musicals. And we don't do musicals because there are a lot of theater companies around here who do musicals
that are
and
doing
they do them very well.
Right.
And also a musical is very expensive to produce. We're on the lower scale of budget size for local theaters, and we would have to find a lot of additional funding to get the rights for a musical and maybe a chamber musical sometime in the future, a small, quirky, 3 or 4 character chamber musical, but nothing vast and large like
not Oklahoma, right? Okay, yeah.
You'll never see us do a stripped down Oklahoma or Hairspray or anything like that.
Talk a little bit about. I know you'd like to do things that people may not have seen, and I know Palm Springs tends to a lot of different theater companies that like to push the envelope a little bit as far as perhaps risque subject matter, occasional nudity, occasional profanity. Where does DET come down on sort of whether or not to do something like that?
Well, we are not, a demographic-specific theater company. So we've done a lot of plays with LGBTQ themes, but that's, that we do it because we like the play.
The play, right.
And I don't think we've ever done nudity on stage, but I'm not opposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think profanity is just sort of, in general, if you're doing a contemporary play,
it's going to be in there. Yeah.
It's going to be in there. And, there are some older people who have come to me sometimes, I really liked it, but I didn't like, all the F words, for example. But I do think that's a generational thing, and most people have come to accept that if you go to the theater, you're coming into an adult situation, and you're going to hear adult language.
Exactly. So do you have, and I don't want you to give anything away, but sort of future seasons or a future, like something in the back of your mind, that bucket list thing as far as what to put on the DET stage that has been percolating for a while? Do you have several of those sort of on the back burner?
I do have in my back pocket or in a file on my computer a very long roster of scripts that I'm interested in, some that I think deserve to be seen sooner than later. Over the years now, we've developed a reputation for being open to new work, so we're getting a lot more unsolicited submissions. There's also some playwrights that we've worked with in the past. For example, Rich Rubin from Portland, who wrote Kafka's Joke, which was one of our most successful productions ever.
Terrific. Yeah.
He's prolific, and he has sent me several scripts, one of which we will be doing a public reading of on November 19th. It's a new play about the artist Georgia O'Keeffe and her husband, the photographer Alfred Stieglitz, and it's called Dispersion of Light. And Rich is a great researcher. So like when he did Kafka's Joke, I learned so much about Kafka. And just by reading this play, I have learned so much about Georgia O'Keeffe and Alfred Stieglitz and how important they were in terms of, being icons of early 20th century art.
Excellent. All right. Well, Desert Ensemble Theater opening Joe Orton's Lute November 15th. You can get tickets, www.desertensembletheater.org. Jerome Elliott, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And continued success and congratulations on all the great stuff DET's doing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Jerome. And we'll see the rest of you the next time on The Desert Scene.
The Desert Scene with Bonnie G. Meet the stars and feel the beat. From the Coachella Valley, it's the place to be. For all the culture, fun, and harmony. The Desert Scene, with Bonnie G. The Desert Scene's where you belong with Mutual Broadcasting's Bonnie G. Just sing along. Just sing along.